Chapter 16. Karen hurried downstairs to answer the door. The front room was dark. She was the only one home. Her mother was working late. Chris was out with friends. She stopped at the front door, breathing hard, and brought her face close to the wooden door. "Who is it?" Silence, and then a deep, fiendish laugh. Karen pulled the door open. "Adam, what are you doing here?" "I've come to drink your blood," Adam declared in a thick Bela Lugosi vampire accent. His reddish eyebrows flew up over his black-rimmed eyeglasses, and he raised both hands as if to attack Karen. "Adam, I'm a little stressed out right now," Karen sighed. "I'm really in no mood for kidding around." "Who's kidding?" Adam insisted. He stepped past her into the living room. He was wearing the too short khaki-colored jacket he always wore, zipped up to the neck. He had both hands buried in the pockets. "Is your mom home?" He peered through the dark room toward the den. Karen shook her head. "No, Mama's working late as always, and Chris is out somewhere, probably getting into trouble." "How come you're so stressed out?" Adam demanded, his eyes studying her through his glasses. Karen shrugged. "I just am." She really didn't feel like discussing the phone calls with Adam. She had told him about the first one, but she didn't feel like getting into it with him now. Besides, what could he do to help? "Adam, did you come over just to chit-chat?" she asked impatiently. He shook his head. "No, I wondered if I could borrow your history notes. The French Revolution notes from yesterday?" "I guess. I have them upstairs," Karen told him, "but I'll need them back for this weekend." "I'll copy them over and bring them back tomorrow," Adam replied. "Promise." She started up the stairs to her room to get the notes. He followed close behind. "I love the French Revolution," he said, a strange grin forming on his pale face. "All those beheadings." "Yuck," Karen muttered, pulling her history notebook from her backpack. "Slice." Adam made a chopping motion with one hand. "Stop," Karen pleaded. "Don't you wonder about all those heads?" he asked, still grinning. "I mean, what did they do with the heads after they cut them off? Just toss them aside? Or did they bury the head with the body? Do you think they sewed the head back on the person and then buried him? Or did they bury the head by itself, in a square hat box or something?" "Adam, you really are making me sick," Karen murmured, rolling her eyes. She handed him the notebook. "Can't you just imagine all the blood and guts pouring out of the neck, and the head rolling around on the guillotine platform? The history text really does a very poor job of describing it." "Thank goodness," Karen declared. "You really are weird, "I'm just really into history," he replied. She gave him a playful shove toward the door. "Go home, Adam." His expression suddenly turned serious. "Have you gotten any more scary phone calls, Karen? Is that why you're so stressed out?" "Yeah, I got another one," she confessed, "just a few minutes before you showed up." "Really?" "It was very scary," Karen told him, "very threatening." She tried to read the expression on Adam's face. Was that a half-smile he was struggling to hide? What was that frightening expression? He started to the door. "I guess I was wrong about it being a one-time thing," he said softly. "Maybe you'd better take those calls seriously." A few minutes after Adam left, the front doorbell rang again. Karen had returned to her room to study. She slammed the textbook shut at the sound of the bell and jumped to her feet. "It must be Ethan," she declared out loud. She hurried down the stairs two at a time and pulled the door open. "Ethan?" "No." Peering out into the darkness, Karen gasped in shock. Chapter 17. "Micah!" Karen cried in astonishment. "I've got to talk to you," Micah called through the storm door. Her eyes burned into Karen's through the glass. "No, we don't have anything to talk about," Karen said coldly. "Karen, let me in," Micah called impatiently. She grabbed the storm door handle and pulled the door open. "Micah, I'm busy," Karen insisted, but she stepped back so that Micah could enter. Micah had her thick blonde hair pulled back and tied loosely with a blue ribbon. She wore a pale blue down vest over a bulky yellow sweater and faded denim jeans with a hole in one knee. Karen led her into the living room and stood in front of the couch. She crossed her arms in front of her and didn't sit down. Micah made a disgusted face. She stood awkwardly in the middle of the room. "I thought you and I were friends," she murmured. "I thought so too," Karen replied coldly, "but I guess not." "What is she doing here?" Karen asked herself. "She isn't my friend any longer. She's a traitor. A traitor!" "I'm really worried about you," Micah said, ignoring Karen's sneer. "Worry about yourself," Karen snapped. "No, Really, Micah continued. She stepped closer, her green eyes studying Karen. Listen to me, Karen. You and I are friends, and... We were friends, Karen interrupted, sadness creeping into her voice. She struggled to keep herself together. Micah turned away. I'm sorry you feel that way, she murmured. That's the way I feel, Karen insisted angrily. Micah cleared her throat. Her charm bracelet jangled as she lowered her hands to her sides, balling them into tight, tense fists. Ethan isn't worth it, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Huh? Karen wasn't sure she had heard correctly. I came here to tell you that Ethan isn't worth it, Micah replied emotionally. He really isn't. You know for sure about him and Wendy? Karen asked. Micah started to say something, but changed her mind. Come on, Micah. Tell me what you know, Karen demanded shrilly. Tell me. Micah shook her head sadly. He isn't worth it, Karen. Tell me, Karen cried. I can't talk to you, Micah said, starting toward the door. I can see that, Micah said, starting toward the door. I can see that. I can't talk to you now. She made her way quickly to the front door, taking long strides. Karen chased after her. Tell me what you know, she insisted. Isn't that why you came here, Micah? To make sure I know the truth about Ethan and Wendy? Micah turned with her hand on the storm door handle. I'm sorry, she said softly. Really sorry. Micah hurried out the door. Breathing hard, Karen leaned her back against the solid door and waited for her heart to stop pounding. I really lost it, she realized. I totally lost it. Micah must think I'm crazy. Why did Micah come? What did she want? Karen's brain was spinning too wildly to figure it out. Did Micah come to warn her? To tell her some news about Ethan and Wendy? To help her? No way to tell. Maybe if Karen hadn't started screaming at her, Micah might have explained why she had come. I've got to get control, Karen told herself. I'm just so stressed out. Karen made her way to the kitchen and put the kettle on. Some hot chocolate will help calm me down, she thought. As she reached into the cabinet for a mug, the phone rang. She hurried over to the wall phone and picked it up. Hello? Hi, Karen. It's me, Ethan. Oh, hi. I thought you'd be here by now, she told him. I can't come, Ethan said hesitantly. I'm sorry, Karen, but my parents need the car, and they need me to stay here with my little cousin. Oh, Karen replied, unable to hide her disappointment. Well, will you be okay? Do you think you should call the police? Ethan asked. I don't know, she told him. I don't know what to do. When is your mom getting home? Soon, she replied, glancing over the sink to the kitchen clock. Any minute, I guess. Good, Ethan said, sounding relieved. Then you'll be okay? I guess, she replied doubtfully. Oh, Saturday night. We can go to the dance club, Ethan told her, if you still want to. Great, she exclaimed, brightening. That's excellent, Ethan. He's going out Saturday night with me, she thought happily. Me, not Wendy. They chatted for a while longer. Ethan urged her to call the police about the creepy calls. She replied that she might. When the kettle started to whistle, she said goodnight and hung up. She was crossing the kitchen to the stove when she saw the broom closet door move. It made a soft creaking sound as it slid open a fraction of an inch. Karen gasped. She locked her eyes on the closet door. Another soft creak. The door edged open another fraction of an inch. Karen raised her hands to her cheeks. Who's there? She managed to choke out. The door creaked again, louder this time. It swung open all the way, and as Karen gaped in horror, Chris's body tumbled heavily to the floor. Chapter 18. Karen cried out as Chris's body landed hard on its side. It bounced once, then lay still, one arm folded underneath it, one leg bent at an impossible angle. Chris? Chris? Had he been murdered and stuffed into the broom closet? She took a reluctant step toward the unmoving body. Was her brother lying dead on the floor in front of her? Or was this another dumb practical joke? Yes, another dumb joke, she thought desperately. Please, please make it another dumb joke. Chris grinned at her. I can't keep a straight face, he said. You look so totally freaked, I can't keep a straight face. You didn't fool me, she lied. She breathed a long sigh. I knew you were faking. Liar. You're a liar, Karen. You fell for it. You should have seen your face. It was great. Laughing in triumph, Chris pulled himself to his feet. When did you get home? Karen demanded, ignoring his gloating grin. A few minutes ago, he told her. I heard you heading for the kitchen, so I ducked into the closet. I couldn't resist. Your jokes are going to kill me, Chris, Karen said, shaking her head unhappily. They really are. Saturday night. Karen was drying her hair when she heard the doorbell ring downstairs. "Chris, could you answer it?" she called to her brother in the next room. "It's Ethan. Tell him I'm still getting dressed." She listened for Chris's footsteps on the stairs, then returned to her hair. Chris pulled open the door and greeted Ethan. "How's it going?" Ethan stepped inside. He shook himself as if trying to shake off the cold. "It's brutal out there, man," he muttered to Chris. The wind slammed the storm door against the side of the house. Ethan grabbed it and struggled to pull it shut. "What a winter," Chris said, closing the front door behind Ethan. "Is that wind ever going to stop? It's almost like a hurricane out there." "Tell me about it," Ethan muttered. He glanced up the stairs. "Is Karen ready?" Chris shook his head. "I heard her hairdryer going." "Is she okay?" Ethan asked tensely. "She didn't get any more scary phone calls, did she?" "No, I don't think so," Chris replied. "I think she's just a little slow tonight." He led Ethan into the living room. "Take off your coat." Ethan draped his coat over the back of an armchair. "Nice shirt," Chris commented, staring at Ethan's loose-fitting, silky, red and gold patterned shirt. "Did somebody puke on it?" "Ha ha," Ethan replied, frowning. "We are going to that new dance club. You know, the one on the river. It's called River Club." "Dumb name," Chris said, pulling a handful of cashews from a glass bowl on the coffee table. He pushed the bowl toward Ethan. "Thanks," Ethan said, tossing several cashews into his mouth. "I didn't get any dinner tonight." Chris glanced at the clock on the mantel. "You're early, man." "I know," Ethan replied, grabbing another handful of cashews. "I wasn't sure what time Karen wanted me to pick her up. I was trying to call, but your call waiting is messed up." "Huh?" Chris had started to drop some cashews into his mouth, but stopped. "Your call waiting. It's messed up," Ethan said. "I kept getting a busy signal. I couldn't get through." Chris lowered his hand with the cashews still in it and eyed Ethan suspiciously. "What are you talking about, Ethan?" he exclaimed, his expression puzzled. "We don't have call waiting." Chapter 19. Karen made her way down the stairs a few minutes later. She wore a silky yellow blouse tucked into a very short suede skirt over dark green tights. "Hey, I'm ready," she called cheerfully. She stopped at the bottom of the stairs, surprised to see Chris, Ethan, and her mother huddled together on the living room couch. They were talking in hushed tones. They instantly stopped and stared at Karen as she entered the doorway. "What's up?" she demanded brightly, flashing Ethan a smile. Her smile faded as the three on the couch continued to stare across the living room at her. "What's the problem? Is my skirt on backwards or something?" Karen asked with a short giggle. She moved into the room, studying their faces. Her mother climbed to her feet. She chewed her lower lip. "Karen, Ethan and your brother have just told me a disturbing story about call waiting." "Huh?" Karen didn't catch on at first. "Call waiting?" "We don't have call waiting," Chris said vehemently. "You pretended—" "Oh!" Karen cried out as she began to realize what they were talking about. "Be quiet, Chris," Mrs. Masters said sharply. "Let me talk to her." Karen could feel her face growing hot. She knew she must be red as a beet. She turned her gaze on Ethan. He avoided her eyes and appeared to shrink into the couch. "What's the story with these frightening phone calls?" Mrs. Masters demanded, her hands clasped tensely in front of her. "Well," Karen took a deep breath. "You told Ethan someone made threatening calls to you," her mother continued, her dark eyes burning into Karen's, as if searching for answers inside Karen's brain. Each time, Ethan was on the line. Mrs. Masters glanced back at Ethan. "Is that right?" Ethan nodded uncomfortably and appeared to shrink even deeper into the couch. "You told Ethan you had call waiting," Mrs. Masters accused. "But we don't have it, Karen. So how did you get these frightening phone calls?" Her mother stared even harder at her, leaning forward tensely, her hands pressed firmly against her waist. Chris shook his head, a tight frown on his face. Ethan trained his eyes on Karen. She could see hurt and confusion in them. Okay, she sighed in a low voice just above a whisper. Okay. She dropped heavily into the armchair across the couch. Her shoulders were slumped. She lowered her head so she wouldn't have to face their staring eyes. "Karen, how did you get the frightening calls?" her mother demanded softly. "I didn't," Karen muttered. "What?" Mrs. Masters asked. "I didn't get any calls," Karen told them. "I made them all up." Chapter 20. "I didn't get any calls. I only pretended," Karen said softly. She brushed a lock of dark hair off her forehead with a trembling hand. "This is so embarrassing," she murmured. keeping her eyes lowered, feeling her neck muscles tense. "But why, Karen?" Mrs. Masters demanded. "Why on earth would you do such a thing?" "You always say my jokes are the dumbest," Chris exclaimed, shaking his head. "Well, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of." "Chris, please," Mrs. Masters scolded sharply. "Give your sister a chance to talk. This isn't a joke, it's serious." Her voice caught in her throat. She swallowed hard, and then she added quietly, "It's very serious." "I really don't want to talk about it," Karen told them, rubbing the back of her neck. "Chris is right. It was really dumb." "I'm afraid we have to talk about it," her mother said. She crossed over to Karen and put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I don't want to embarrass you, dear. I want to help you. I need to know why you thought you had to invent those frightening calls." "To keep Ethan," Karen blurted out shrilly. She felt tears glaze over her eyes. She sucked in her breath and held it, willing herself not to cry. She felt her mother's hand squeeze her shoulder tenderly. "I don't understand," Mrs. Masters said, her voice barely above a whisper. 2 hot tears rolled down Karen's cheeks. She brushed them away with her fingers. "Ethan was going to break up with me, to go out with Wendy," she said, avoiding her mother's reproachful eyes. "No way," Ethan protested, pulling himself to the edge of the couch. "No way, Karen. That just isn't true." I made up the calls so he'd stay with me," Karen reluctantly choked out. She raised her eyes, a pleading expression on her face. "Oh, Mom, this is so embarrassing. Can't I just go to the dance club now?" Mrs. Masters ran her hand through Karen's hair. Karen pulled her head away. "Can't Ethan and I go now?" she pleaded shrilly. "I've confessed, okay? I admit I was a jerk, so can I go now?" "It's sick," she heard Chris mutter from the couch. "It's really sick." "Shut up, Chris," Karen snapped. "Karen," her mother said sharply, "you don't seem to understand how serious this is. "Yes, I do," Karen interrupted, jumping to her feet. "Yes, I do. But I said I'm sorry, okay? Haven't I been embarrassed enough for one night? Haven't I?" "You don't need to be embarrassed," Mrs. Masters said softly, her dark eyes studying Karen with concern. "We all care about you, dear. I'm going to get you the help you need." "Help? What do you mean, help?" Karen screamed. She could feel herself losing control now, but she couldn't help it. Why was her mother talking about help? "I did a dumb thing, that's all," Karen muttered. "But it's important to understand why," Mrs. Masters insisted. "You mean you want to send me to a shrink?" Karen cried, squeezing her hands tightly around her waist, staring angrily at her mother. "Adam went to a very good doctor in town," Mrs. Masters said thoughtfully, "before his family moved. He was upset about the move, and this doctor talked to him and helped him a lot. I'll call over there and get the doctor's name." "Mother, I don't need a shrink," Karen uttered through clenched teeth. "It wouldn't hurt to talk to someone," Mrs. Masters said. "You're nuts," Chris declared, stretching his arms above his head. "Totally nuts." "Chris, I'm warning you," Mrs. Masters cried angrily. "You're supposed to be the man in the family. Instead, you're acting like a 2-year-old. "Hey, I'm not the one who's nuts," Chris protested. Ethan was leaning forward on the couch, hands clasped tensely in front of him, staring toward the doorway. "Can I go to the dance club or not?" Karen demanded, staring furiously at her mother. Mrs. Masters hesitated, biting her lower lip. "Only if you promise you'll talk to the doctor," she said finally. Okay, Karen muttered grudgingly. She turned to Ethan. "Let's go, okay?" Ethan climbed to his feet. He had bright pink circles on his cheeks. He avoided her glance. Karen could see that he was totally embarrassed. "I've really blown it this time," Karen thought miserably. "Everyone thinks I'm a nutcase. Ethan, too. He'll definitely break up with me now. Why should he hang around with a nutcase?" Pretending to get the scary calls had seemed like a harmless way to keep Ethan interested in her, when she had seen him talking with Wendy, laughing with Wendy, standing so close to Wendy. Karen had realized that she would do anything to hold on to Ethan. Anything. But now her desperate plan had backfired. If only she hadn't been caught. Ethan followed her to the front closet. Silently, he helped her on with her coat. "He's staring at me as if I'm some kind of sicko," Karen thought miserably. "Ethan thinks I'm a nutcase." "Not too late," Mrs. Masters called from the living room. "Don't wait up," Karen called back. She forced a smile at Ethan, but he didn't smile back. They stepped out into the windy, cold night. The seats in the Red Bonneville were cold. Karen could feel the cold even through her skirt and tights. Ethan drove to the club in silence, his eyes straight ahead on the road, a thoughtful expression on his face. I'm really sorry about everything," Karen offered, putting her hand on his. "It's okay," he replied without looking at her. She forced a laugh. "It's actually kind of funny, don't you think?" He hesitated. I guess, he replied. At the River Club, Ethan seemed to cheer up a little. They began to dance as soon as they arrived, moving to the loud, throbbing rhythms under flashing red and blue lights. Karen was beginning to feel better, just starting to relax, when Ethan led her to the tables at the side of the dance floor. I'll be right back, he told her, shouting over the pounding music. Before Karen could protest, he disappeared toward the front of the club. Where is he going in such a hurry? Karen wondered. She stood uncomfortably against the wall, watching the red and blue forms of the swaying, bobbing dancers under the swirl of the lights. When Ethan hadn't returned 5 minutes later, Karen took a seat at one of the tiny tables. Elbows on the table, she rested her head in her hands, her eyes searching eagerly for Ethan. Where is he? What can he be doing? She jumped up as a frightening thought flashed in her mind. Has he left me here? No, of course not, she assured herself. There I go being crazy again. She decided to follow him. She made her way across the dance floor, pushing and bumping her way through the dancing couples. They all seemed so happy, she thought. Why can't Ethan and I be happy too? She stopped when she saw him. He was leaning against the wall, talking into a payphone, a hand over his free ear, trying to block out the loud music. Who can he be talking to now, she wondered, feeling her neck muscles tighten. Ethan glanced up and saw Karen. He gave her a quick wave, then turned his back as he continued his call. Karen stood at the edge of the dance floor. The red and blue lights swirled over her. The floor appeared to tilt and sway in time to the steady, relentless rhythm. She shut her eyes, but the flashing, rolling colors didn't go away. When she opened her eyes, Ethan was standing in front of her. Did you just call Wendy? The words burst out of her. Huh? He swept a hand back through his long hair and leaned forward to hear her over the music. Did you just call Wendy? Karen repeated, shouting into his ear. No way, Ethan replied, frowning. Swear to me you're not going out with Wendy, Karen cried. Huh? I can't hear. He brushed his face close to hers. His long hair brushed her cheek. Swear to me, Karen screamed. Swear to me you're not interested in Wendy. Ethan solemnly raised a hand as if taking an oath. I swear it, he shouted. Did she believe him? She wasn't sure. As they began to dance, a slow, soft dance, she held on to Ethan so tightly, he couldn't get away if he wanted to. Nearly 2 weeks later, on a snowy Thursday night, Ethan arrived at Karen's house after dinner for a study date. Mrs. Masters greeted him at the front door and ushered him inside. Is the snow sticking? She asked, peering over his shoulder as Ethan stamped his wet boots on the rubber floor mat. It's starting to, he told her. He brushed some wet snowflakes from his long black hair. Before you go up to study with Karen, I want to thank you, Mrs. Masters said quietly. Huh? Thank me. Ethan reacted with surprise. He pulled off his backpack and followed her away from the front stairs. You've been so considerate, Mrs. Masters whispered, glancing at the stairs, not wanting Karen to hear. You've been so attentive to Karen. I really appreciate it, Ethan. Pink circles formed on his cheeks. He shook his head hard as if trying to shake away the compliment. It's been so good of you to come over every night and see Karen every weekend, Mrs. Masters continued, not noticing his embarrassment. You've really been so good for her. You have no idea. You really have made the difference, seeing her through this bad time. That's good, Ethan replied awkwardly. I'm glad. Dr. Rudman says that he's had some very good sessions with Karen, Mrs. Masters continued, shoving her hands into her jeans pockets. He says he's very encouraged by Karen's progress. Great, Ethan murmured. Well, I didn't mean to embarrass you, Mrs. Masters said, smiling warmly at him. I just wanted to thank you for being there for Karen. Go on upstairs. Okay, thanks, Ethan replied. Hoisting his backpack over one shoulder, he eagerly made his way up to Karen's room. She glanced up from the open book on her desk as he entered. What were you and Mom talking about? She demanded. Nothing much. Just the weather, Ethan told her. Karen started to say something, but the telephone rang. She picked up the receiver after the first ring. Hello? Karen, this is your imagination calling, a harsh, throaty voice whispered in her ear. I'm inside your brain. I'm going to kill you. I'm really going to kill you. Chapter 21. No! Karen screamed. The phone dropped from her hand, clattering onto the desk. What is it? Ethan demanded, his eyes wide with surprise. It's real, Karen choked out. Ethan, it's real this time. The call. He grabbed the receiver. Let me hear. He raised it to his ear. Hello? Hello? Who's there? Karen stared at him as he listened intently. He turned to her, a bewildered expression on his face. Just a dial tone, he murmured. He replaced the receiver. Karen threw her arms around him and pressed her face against his chest. It was so horrible, Ethan. Such an ugly, raspy voice. He said he was my imagination. He said he was inside my brain and he was going to kill me. Ethan didn't reply. Karen pulled back and studied his face. You believe me, don't you? Yeah, of course, Ethan replied automatically. Karen caught the doubt in his eyes. He doesn't believe me. Ethan doesn't believe me. She shoved him angrily away with both fists. It's real this time, she cried. It was a real call, Ethan. I believe you, he insisted. Really, Karen, I believe you. But she could see in his eyes that he didn't. She could see in his tight-lipped expression that he thought she was inventing another drama. Late that night, Karen lay wide awake, unable to fall asleep, staring at the rectangle of light on her ceiling from the streetlight outside her bedroom window. The whispered voice repeated its harsh threat in her mind again and again. I'm inside your brain. I'm going to kill you. I'm really going to kill you. Ethan didn't believe me, she thought miserably. He had an excuse and hurried home. He didn't believe me, even though this time it was real. Real, real, real. Was someone really going to kill her? She shut her eyes, trying to force the harsh whisper from her mind, trying to will herself asleep. When she reopened her eyes, she became aware of darting shadows, movement, the creak of the floorboards, a nearly silent footstep. Someone is here, Karen realized. Someone is in my room. She struggled to sit up, but was held down by a hidden force, a heavy weight. Paralyzed. I'm paralyzed. What is happening to me? Why can't I sit up? The floorboards groaned again, closer this time to her bed. Shadows bent and shifted. She stared into the darkness, still struggling to sit up, but the heavy weight pressed against her chest, held her head flat on the pillow. Her hair felt wet and sticky under her head. Shadows moved. She heard a muffled cough. I'm inside your brain. I'm going to kill you. I'm really going to kill you. Black shadows slid over gray shadows. The floorboards creaked and groaned. Who's there? Karen's voice came out harsh and raspy. She had the same voice as the caller on the phone. Who's in my room? She called in a throaty whisper. Silence. Sliding shadows close to the bed. And then a figure moved out of the shadows, and a face lowered itself right above hers. Chris! Karen cried. He grinned down at her, his face half in shadow, half in light. Chris, what are you doing in my room? His face floated over hers. His grin grew wider. His eyes burned down into hers. It wasn't a joke, he said. Huh? Chris? What do you want? Karen cried. It wasn't a joke, Chris repeated. And then Karen saw the gleaming blade, and recognized the big kitchen knife her brother raised slowly in his hand. Chapter 22. Chris, please, Karen pleaded. The knife blade gleamed, lowering toward her throat. If only she could move. If only she could sit up, slide away. But the weight pressed down on her, holding her there beneath the gleaming blade, beneath her brother's frightening, unwavering grin. Chris? He backed away suddenly, his face fading into the shadows. And Karen suddenly realized to her horror that he wasn't alone. Shadows moved silently. Other faces appeared. Adam, she whispered. Adam, are you here too? Beside Adam, she saw Ethan, then Jake. She saw Micah's tangles of blonde hair next, and then Micah was there. Chris and Adam and Ethan and Jake and Micah and Wendy. Their faces were illuminated by a silvery glow, the glow of broad knife blades. They all held kitchen knives. The gleaming blades rose above Karen, shining brighter and brighter until she had to turn away, had to shut her eyes from the shimmering white glare. Have you all come to kill me? She wondered. It isn't a joke, Chris said. It isn't a joke this time. No, it's a dream, Karen suddenly knew. She knew when she opened her eyes, the faces, the knives, the shadows would all be gone. Just a dream. A frightening dream, she told herself. She opened her eyes. She sat up. She had been right. She stared into the silent darkness. Just a horrible dream. She stared at the ceiling for the rest of the night, afraid the dream might continue if she fell back to sleep. A few days later, Ethan met her outside the lunchroom in school. How's it going? He asked cheerfully. Did you ace Carver's midterm? I think so, Karen replied, bending down to pick up a penny. Hey, look what I found. Isn't finding a penny supposed to be good luck? Ethan had turned away, she realized. Tucking the penny into her jeans pocket, she saw that Jake had appeared. Where have you been, man? Jake demanded in his raspy voice, after slapping Ethan a high five in greeting. I haven't seen you in days. Ethan's cheeks turned pink. Well, I've been spending a lot of time with Karen, he explained. Karen turned to see Jake glaring at her coldly. Jake doesn't like me, Karen suddenly realized. The discovery caught her by surprise. She had known Jake even longer than she had known Ethan, but until this moment, she had never realized that Jake didn't like her. You want to grab some lunch? Jake asked Ethan. Ethan turned to Karen. No, not today. Karen and I... Okay, later, Jake said, shrugging. He shambled away, his long grasshopper legs taking unhurried strides. If you'd rather have lunch with Jake, Karen started. Ethan shook his head. No, come on. Did you bring your lunch, or do you want to buy something? Before Karen could answer, she felt someone tap on the back of her sweater. She turned around to see Jessica Forrest, a girl she knew. Karen, there's a call for you, Jessica informed her. In the principal's office. Huh? A call? Who is it? Karen demanded. Jessica shook her head. I don't know. I work in the office at lunchtime. They just told me to try to find you. Karen felt her heart start to thud in her chest. Blood pulsed at her temples. Who would call her at the office? Was something wrong with her mom? Was there an accident? Had something terrible happened? I'll save you a seat, Ethan said, pointing to the lunchroom. Karen barely heard him, her mind whirring with frightening thoughts of what the call could be. She followed Jessica to the office, half walking, half jogging. Jessica stopped to talk to some kids. Karen hurried past her. She ran into the principal's office and breathlessly grabbed up the phone at the end of the long counter. Hello? I can see you, Karen. The throaty voice rasped into her ear. I'm in your mind. I'm your worst nightmare. I'm going to kill you. Karen's mouth dropped open, but no sound came out. The phone receiver trembled in her hand. Who is doing this to me? She asked herself. Do they just want to frighten me? Or do they really plan to kill me? Who is it? Who? She tried again to say something, but the phone had gone dead. The dial tone buzzed in her ear. Don't use that phone, a woman's voice called. Huh? Karen dropped the receiver onto the phone. Don't use that phone, Karen. Karen turned, her heart pounding, to see Mrs. Ferguson, the office secretary, pointing at her. Huh? What's wrong, Mrs. Ferguson? Karen asked in a quivering voice. You'll have to use a different phone, Mrs. Ferguson instructed. That phone isn't working at all, Karen. It's out of order.